And so we'll call to order the regular school board meeting of the Madison Central School District on Monday, June 13th. We'll have Mr. Brooks record the members present or absent, and we do have a quorum. So the next thing we'll do is we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first item that requires action is approval of the agenda, so I would entertain a motion and a second to that. Mrs. Thompson has the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Sims has the second. Further questions, discussions? No changes to the agenda from the administration side?
No.
Okay, then have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Declare that that is passed. On to the items on our consent agenda, 7 through 9. We have our minutes of our May 9th meeting. Sean and Steve and myself had the opportunity to go through the bills. There were some big ones in there, especially in the S's, huh? But everything seemed to be in order and everything. Any other comments, Steve or Sean?
In good order.
Okay. And our financials are posted out on the web for all to see. Personnel actions, Mr. Schaefer, any comments there?
Well, it pretty much as presented. I could go through each one of them. Julie Barr is elementary custodian, and Tony Jazzo as custodian. However, Tony only stayed with us 4 days. And then Ashley Granviller as the weekend custodian, which is that position we've been trying to fill for a long time. So we're glad to have that. And Laura Blum to replace Jenny Bird as assistant varsity gymnastics coach. Then we have one resignation, Heather Olson as a paraprofessional at the elementary school. So
Okay.
I recommend your approval of all that.
We have a recommendation to approve the personnel actions. I would entertain a motion to take care of the consent items 7 through 9.
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Sims has the motion, Mr. Miller has the second. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the consent items 7 through 9 signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. No one appears to be here to address us as a delegation, so we'll move on to the administrator's report. The middle school report was presented there. We also have a review of handbooks. Tammy had one point that she sent to Cotton in terms of a question at a time. Did you respond back?
You responded that
And
you
you were correct. A couple of things that I noticed in the elementary handbook that we probably want to get corrected is the link to the policies on page 21. That is not the proper link. You get a 404 error off of that, so we'll want to verify to get the proper item in there. And then we're still calling it school reach in the elementary handbook instead of the school messenger also. So, and that's on page 18. So maybe I'll just send those to Janelle would be the best to do on that? Or-
Yeah.
Okay.
Mitch's got it down.
Okay, so those were my comments. Anyone else have comments on either of the handbooks that we had?
What page was the link on?
The link is on page 21, and the school messenger portion is on page 18. And then we had our link of surplus items for the Prairie Village sale. For what we took out, we did pretty well, I would say, on there. And so we have that from the surplus items. Other things, Mr. Schaefer, from the administrative report.
Well, in follow-up from last meeting, we had that election for the State High School Activities Association Board of Directors. And it's turned out that Jim Eisenbry, principal of Baltic High School, is the next person to assume that position on the Board of Directors. So that's the one we voted for, and certainly wish him well. And then also the results of that constitutional amendment That did pass. It took, it had to have a 60% majority, and it was like over 92.5% majority. And that amendment was lengthy, and it has a lot of levels, but it's short of the story, and it's about the eligibility of students and the moving of that process along in a little more of a timely manner than what it has been in the past. And anybody wants to read that through again, they certainly may. I have it here, but we won't elongate the meeting over that. And then Mitch and I have been talking, and apparently I won, or whatever. I get to give you a little bit of an update on the buildings and grounds projects as they are coming through this summer. What we call the bus garage sidewalk, in other words, on 11th Street, is pretty much completed. There might be a little black dirt work there yet, but everything else is coming along very well. The 9th Street sidewalk here in front is used to, that's easier. 9th Street is the sidewalk is supposed to start here by the Pond Select Group in mid-June, which is pretty much any day, so it'll be tearing up the front here before long. The gymnastics bathroom and entrance and painting and et cetera, that will be, some of that's been going on already. There's some activity over there. We're hoping that for the most part that'll come together in late June or early July. The middle school bleachers have been removed. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. And then four rows of those bleachers have been installed in the gymnastics center. So for the first time, they have, you might say, permanent bleachers and retractable bleachers. That's a nice upgrade for them. That work has been done. And the middle school bleachers are scheduled to be installed in August. That's a get in line and wait and see process, the way it seems. But that's what we are told. And today, as a matter of fact, we picked out the tile for that area around the wood floor in that gym. So that'll be changing out as well. And so that'll be a nice job when that's completed. And the parking lot asphalt in the northwest corner of the property here, and that area that's become known as the old bus garage area as well. That'll be done here towards the end of the month, or first part of July as well. So those are all good changes that are underway, or soon to be underway. Then don't forget about that new bus purchase that Mitchell wrote that grant and received, what is it, $20,000 towards the purchase of a new bus. And then we have to, quote unquote, recycle our old bus. And that'll take place here at the end of the month or early in July as well. And then the kitchen. Hopefully we're going to resolve their problems with the walk-in freezer. I don't know that it's risen to the board level before, but we've put up with that thing long enough. So that's going to be replaced, and that comes out of the capital outlay fund of that program. And we're fortunate to have enough money in there to take care of that. So we'll resolve that issue. Other than that, pretty much just summer months. Business as usual. Any questions?
Any questions? Anything else, Mr. Brooks, that you have in the administrative report? Okay. So then we'll go on then, no action on the administrative report. We'll go on to our tabled item, considering dissolving the gymnastics co-op with Montrose. Mr. Schaefer, do you want to take the lead on that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. This is an item that it's in the second time it's before the board. The recommendation of the administration, coaching staff, and activity director is to dissolve the co-op in gymnastics between Montrose and Madison Central. And the dissolution document provided by the South Dakota High School Activity Association states that either school board may file that paper to dissolve. I want you to know that the Montrose Board has already taken that action and did so in their May meeting. And, but because it is a Madison Central program, and it's fitting, in my opinion, that the Madison Board take action to dissolve this co-op. And I recommend that we do so. And for lack of anything better, I mean, I don't have any further explanations to give you, so I just call for the motion and see what the board has to say.
Anyone wish to make the motion to dissolve the gymnastics?
So moved.
Mr. Miller makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hague. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of dissolving of the co-op in gymnastics with Montrose signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Item number 14 then is consider approval of the CTE Auto Shop building and to seek bids. Mr. Zay, come on down. I love these architects and their big paper.
Well, this is only half-size set, everything is a full-size.
Ryan's looking for the rest of it.
Oh, he'll get it soon, don't worry.
Are we getting billed for this?
For what?
The page?
For a letter, what do you mean?
It's read the fine print.
Architects.
Thank you, sir.
I like the cover.
Well, after much discussion and work, why, we've got this to the point where we feel we can put it out for bids. Basically, we're looking at about 2,500 square feet at the northeast corner of the building, or northwest corner of the building, okay, which will include 2 bays, a small mechanical room, and a drive-through into the existing wood shop area there. We had started out hoping we could do it in block and brick to match, but with the construction activity that's going on in Sioux Falls and 3 big projects here in Madison, the cost was just too much, so we went with a pre-engineered building, single slope, with the outside panels will look very much like what you have in the gym. Inside would be a metal liner panel, so the inside will look very similar to what we did at the bus garage. Do in-floor heat again like we did, all the lighting will be the LEDs, which worked out very good. We've got a few existing LEDs on the outside there that are within the construction limits that we're going to move out and replace existing fixtures that aren't LEDs. And I'm going to add a couple more on there to help light the parking lot area for you. Other than that, any questions and that kind of stuff, I'd be glad to answer them. But you've got basically the majority of the architectural here, except for some details. And we would like to be able to have your approval, so we put this out for bids on the 20th. We would have a pre-bid meeting on the 24th, and we would take bids on July 1st, and then have a contract ready for you to sign on the 11th of July, so we can get this thing going. I'd like to have the foundation work and the big holes out of the way before school starts, if we can. And we have a completion date of no later than December 31st to match the grant.
So then the board would need to take action by approving this
Approving it to
package.
go off for bids.
Okay. So the actual motion would be to go out to bids, but using this set of specs probably, Gary?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and Mrs. Thompson made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Ryan is a second. Mr. Hague has a second. Questions or discussion further? Things we're missing or Vince?
I'd like to interject, at least my opinion on this at this stage. My compliments to Mr. Zay and his associates in recognizing the fact that even though we may prefer the block and brick, I think, in my vision, that this building will come into play very well, hoping that it'll come in under budget in regards to the grant dollars available. But even probably more so, the aesthetics and the looks of that corner of the building will be more in conjunction with the renovated high school and the added gymnasium. In other words, our north side view will be more modern. And I think you'll enjoy that. I think the taxpayers will recognize that as a nice improvement. And the program stands on its own merit in the fact that we're bringing that back. That's what schools need to do, in my opinion, and have more available for more children and meet the needs of students in this area as well. So I'm pleased that we're at that point.
It looks very, very nice, Gary, it looks good.
I have a quick question. The majority of students or staff using this, are they entering it through the existing classroom 205 or primarily through the existing classroom 209? Just looking at the doors and things like that into the.
I presume they're probably gonna be doing it through 209.
Yeah, I have entrance from both, but 209 will be the.
209 is
I'll be
primary,
doing
okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Wonderful opportunity to move forward with the district with some grant dollars.
I have one, it just looks like it's four carport bays, so like 4 lifts,
Two lifts.
2 lifts.
Two lifts, yeah.
Your combine is not going to fit, Steve.
Well, you said 20 foot for elevation.
20 foot clear space underneath, yeah.
Might fit. What's width?
Further questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to proceed forward with bids signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Declare the motion is passed. Thank you very much, Gary, for your
Thank you.
work again.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
All right, we will forego right now the budget hearing and the tax request and move on down to item number 17 on the agenda, which is approval of agreements for the technology director and curriculum development staff, or curriculum development and staff development services. Those are two that we've had. Any other comments that the administration wishes to make?
With those two, the professional services contracts, similar formats as prior years, just adjusting the amount. And we usually adjust it with the administrator salary, which is 2.75 for this year.
So is there a motion for approval of the technical director and the curriculum development and staff development services contracts? Mr. Nelson makes the motion. Second. By Mrs. Thompson. Further questions and/or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving of those two contracts signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Item number 18, approval of classified staff negotiations.
So the classified staff negotiations reached an agreement, so I'll kind of go through some of the highlights. There's many different classes amongst our, we'll go through the majority. For a year, there's a 2-year agreement. For year 1, the majority is a 50-cent per hour increase, which is 7.82%. And for year 2 is a 35-cent per hour increase, which is a 2.65. The health insurance contribution of the district increased by $75 per month.
Okay. And the new format seemed to work well with,
The confusion at first, but I think it went away.
Okay.
All right.
and I think the 2-year contract is critical for us. I think the more we can continue to move with those things, the better off we're going to be. So, is there a motion that we then approve the classified staff negotiations? So moved by Mrs. Thompson. Mr. Miller, will let him second.
Second.
All right, further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Administrative staff, thanks to those folks who went through that for us.
You're welcome.
So with the administrative staff, it's also a 2-year agreement. The highlights for that, in year 1, 5 days were added, plus 2,000 to the base. That total package is of 5.15%. In year two, it was 1,800 to the base, and it equals a 2.45% increase.
And insurance remained unchanged.
Insurance remained unchanged.
Okay. So is there a motion that we approve the administrative staff negotiations? Okay, Mr. Hague has the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Sims will second that so we can get it off the table, right? Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the staff negotiations signify by saying aye. On to item number 20, our time to look at our agreements that we have with the Madison Community Hospital. These are something we do each year in June. One is for therapy services, which is what Rob has up there, and the other is for professional nursing. So you, Mitch?
And I put on the rates that we're currently paying this year. Both agreements went up about that 2% mark. Otherwise, the wording all stayed the same services, same as they've done this year and in prior years.
Okay.
Tom, does the board realize that the therapy services are the OT and the PT services?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone wish to make a motion for approval of those agreements with the Madison, actually, we should probably call that the Madison Regional Health
Yeah, that's right.
on there. And I noticed that Tammy had, be sure to get the new address right on those, so.
I would make a motion to approve those.
Okay, Mrs. Thompson moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the contracts with the Madison Community Hospital for therapy and professional, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, next, approval of the supplemental budget and contingency funds for 25-16.
So once we approve this, they'll make my budget notice not quite correct, but with this, you can see we did the superintendent search camp, selected a full package from ASBSD, and then we did that staff chamber bucks right around the Christmas time over this year, and those were two items we didn't have fully budgeted for. In the capital outlay fund, we called some debt early, and then we also paid off that read loan for the elementary early also. You can see that there. And then in the special education, we ended up having additional students with transportation, and this is to adjust to correct that piece to it.
And this is something we need to do on a regular basis as we end out our budget year, is to get those items in balance. So we would need an approval of the supplemental budget and contingency transfers for 2015-2016. Is that Mr. Nelson? Okay.
Charlie just got it, give it to Charlie.
I'll second.
Okay, and Mr. Moore with the second. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Declared motion is passed. Next item is consider approval of the quotes for the fuel purchases.
So we received the two quotes from our two local vendors. We kind of looked through number 2 diesel is probably the most purchased item. We did some monthly comparisons because there is where number 1 diesel is less on the one proposal. When we did our comparisons, the proposal from F&M Co-op is the low proposal. Their ethanol rate was some lower, and we do a little bit more on diesel during our winter months, but our recommendation would be to accept the proposal from F&M Co-op.
What were we with this past year?
We were Coles Control.
And actually, the previous 2 years,
Yeah.
and if I remember correctly, F&M didn't submit a bid a year ago.
Yeah, that'd be right.
On that, so. All right, so we have recommendation from the administration that we accept the bid from from F&M for the fuel purchases. Is there a motion to that effect? Okay, Mr. Miller gets the motion, Mrs. Thompson gets the second. Further questions or discussion? And that's not the cost per gallon, that's the cost over and above what their value is on that given day, so.
Want me to mention how that works? The state bids fuel from regional centers every day, and we take that bid, and this is their margin about that bid to bring it from Sioux Falls or where they bring it from. So they're just bidding margin on it. So we're using the power of the state bid to fuel prices.
Okay. Further questions or discussions on that item? All in favor of approval of F&M for the fuel purchases for 2016, 2017, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Declare that that has passed. Next item is the county health nurse contract.
Read that out. So for the health nurse contract, it's similar services as in prior years. We didn't request as many hours as we have in the past. And some of that is, we haven't been using those hours. On the state side, they'd like to make sure what we're asking for is close to what we're using. So then this one is up to $1,400, or like our last year, up to $2,000. We ended up spending about a little over $1,000 in this year's. You can't see what the X's are the things that we have access to through them with this contract. And they bill us out at $20 an hour once a year completes. Do you have any questions on that?
So obviously, the recommendation will be approval of the contract from for the county health nurses services. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mrs. Thompson makes the motion for the county health nurses agreement. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Sims. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the county health nurses agreement signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Next, number 24 then, food service changes.
So with the food service changes, the federal government has a weighted price requirement that they have each year. We take our price from the prior year and we have to run it through a formula. The minimum amount you have to go up is 10 cents. The formula gets us to a 15 cent, but the 10 cent with our new contract will be able to cover our costs just fine. So our recommendations go up in the meals, 10 cents on the breakfast and 10 cents on lunch, so it'll go up to $1.60 for breakfast and $2.70 for lunch. And then we like to put out just a little tool that kind of lets parents know how many meals are in a month and then what the cost would be if they run paid meals and what the cost would be if they're on reduced meals, just so families can kind of see what it would be. And then we just do a little comparison on what was the prior year with that. And then we actually post that on the website or when registration happens. So the recommendation is a 10-cent increase per meal. And it also moves the adult meals. That same amount also.
Okay. So we have a recommendation for the purposes of increasing the food service charges by 10 cents per meal. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mr. Moore has the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Sims. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Declare the motion is passed. We've got about a minute until we're ready for our budget hearing, so I'd like to take the liberty of doing our resolution of thanks. And I would read this, and for the media, we'll get this to you in electronic form, so you don't have to write it all down. Resolution honoring Superintendent Vincent Schaefer upon his retirement. Whereas Mr. Vincent Schaefer began his dash as Superintendent of Schools for the Madison Central School District in July of 2007. Whereas Mr. Schaefer has done an outstanding job of leading the Madison Central District forward on so many fronts. Whereas Mr. Schaefer has interacted with the students and serving as a friend and role model to them throughout his tenure as superintendent. Whereas Mr. Schaefer has developed so many positive relationships with staff, community members of the Madison Central School District. Now therefore, I, Tom Farrell, President of the Madison Central School District Board of Education, do hereby make a motion on behalf of the school board, the students, teachers, staff, and patrons of the Madison Central School District. We do express our appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Schaefer for his loyal and dedicated service. We extend our personal best wishes upon his retirement and for continued success in his future pursuits. Seconded by,
Cameron, second.
to be spread upon the minutes of the Madison Central School District Board of Education minutes on this 13th day of July, June, that's what it says, June 2016. So, Mr. Schaefer, on behalf of the board, thank you much.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we're into the budget hearing.
Sir, I'd like to address you. My name is Christy Kraus, and we thought the meeting started at 5:30. I'm very sorry we're late. I'm here with my daughter, and I was wondering if I could request to discuss item number 13, with the co-op of Mount Rose.
Can we proceed first with our budget hearing, since that's been posted at 5:30, and then we'll decide what we're going to do on that.
Still the projector here. So what was attached to the agenda was proposed budget, and there were changes between the preliminary to the proposed budget on there. Let's kind of go through. Along the top, you'll see the funds. You'll see the proposed budget totals for each fund, and what the prior year was right below it, and then what the difference is between those. So you can kind of see that. The means of finance, just what's local, what's county, what's state, what's federal under each fund. And we'll go through this in quite a bit more detail as we go through kind of the spreadsheet. And then the appropriations, we have the funds again, and below the elementary, middle school, high school, kind of instruction programs, and our support programs, and then our non-public school programs, and then our other activities. And there you can see that the appropriations meet the, if you up above, meet the revenues. So now we'll kind of go through a little more in detail of what those numbers, what's behind them, what they mean. I thought I'd start off with the easy funds first. That's okay. What we have up here is we have the highlighted column is the proposed column. The column F is the prior year, and column G is the year before that, so you can kind of have a little history on that. So if you look, this is our health insurance fund. Looks like our certificate fees will remain the same. This is what we pay for our stop loss coverages and for our administration costs should be relatively similar. Our self-insurance claims, we pay our own claims of our pool, look like they'll be going up some. And so we have projected that our costs would be 1.14 million with some change. And I'll just kind of jump back and forth between our expenditures and revenues. And in order to finance that, we earn about $2,000 in interest each year off the money that's sitting in this fund. We charge to our staff that take our health insurance $1,058,000, and then we have a stop loss. Any claims that exceed the $40,000 we're reinsured for, and then they'll pay us on those claims. So I'm kind of total about that same amount. It varies quite a bit each year. We've had some years where the total's been under $1 million, some years it's been over $1 million, so it does fluctuate. That's our.
I guess that's one question, on those being premiums. Some are paid by the district and some are paid by the employees.
Yeah, there's the district match,
Okay.
and as it sits currently, it's $410 for this year that the district contributes towards the monthly premium. Next year will be $485, so that portion. as part of the premiums. And I'll go, any questions on health insurance fund? Not too much to the fund, other than less dollars. We'll go into our driver's education fund right now. That's our Fund 53. The wages stayed the same as the prior year. Vehicle usage, there's 72 students, but I think the year before had 70 from the numbers I received, so it just changed just slightly on there. And as we look through the budget, you'll notice there's a salary line item. The 200s is the benefits, 300s is more services, and 400s is supplies and that. And so we go into our revenue source. For driver's ed, it comes straight from charges to the students. And the reason we have negative amounts there, that's where we charge just a little bit more. When we first started that first year, we went a little bit negative, actually the first 2 years. This is just recover slowly some of that fund, so you can get to a zero balance in that fund. That's our driver's ed. And anytime if you have a question, anything, or something you see that looks not quite right, let me know. With our food service fund, we have some supervision that we pay, so there's the salaries on the supervision and the benefits related to it. Our professional technical is our contract, partially our contract, and then some other services. We have some repairs on the different equipments, supplies, computer service equipment, softwares, commodities that we receive through the state from the feds. Some non-capitalized equipment, some capitalized equipment, and we have depreciation costs. This is our only fund which we show depreciation. That's just a state requirement on that fund. So our total is about $556,000. Then how we fund those expenses. Get a little bit of interest on the dollars we have in there. Our sales to our students total about the 247. Our sales to the adult staff and parents that come in. A la carte sales, which is just middle school and high school. St. Thomas, we get a nickel per meal for preparation of the meal in our facilities, and then we deliver them there. The state has kind of a reimbursement they give us. It's a small amount, but it's nice to get. The federal reimbursement is what we get reimbursed for our free meals and our reduced meals. And then we have our donated commodities that come through the Fed, but delivered through the state for that total. It's a total food service program. We average about 860 meals a day, and there's a very large provider of meals within our community. We'll go into our bond redemption fund. Next year's bond redemption payment, $235,000 will be principal, $164,000 will be interest. There's a issuance cost by the facilitator that pays out all these bonds of $600 for a total of $399,000 will be our bond redemption fund. And then our revenue to cover that. Majority of it comes from the taxes. There's a little bit of mobile home taxes, prior years, funds, a little bit of interest earned. There's some penalties on any taxes that received after the prior year, and then use just a tad of the fund balance, just to make it balance out so it's the same dollar amount. And then that's our bond redemption fund on our high school. The piece that's put straight up to a tax. And then I'll go into our pension fund. So with our pension fund, it's very different this year than any other past year. This year, whatever collected from July 1st to December 31st, which is this amount here, or estimated to be that amount there, is considered local effort, and they reduce our state aid dollar for dollar. In prior years, that wasn't the case. They were pension fund dollars. So that this will be used in lieu of the state aid that we won't be getting because of those dollars. And in the future year, there won't be anything in these amounts anymore. And it's just into the general fund. So that's kind of what those are. The 270 is for the early retirement programs that we have amongst our staff. About 40,000 is obligated from this year up paying the next year, and the remainder is just estimating how many early retirements we may have into the future years on that. Then how we'll fund that. We'll receive that first half taxes, 110,000 is our estimated amount. There's some prior years that'll show up some interest, and then we'll be using our fund balance. And that fund balance will be carrying forward our local pension plan until it's paid out. On there, and I did set that piece relatively high, just to give us flexibility into the next year. With that. Any thoughts or questions, start getting to know more?
So you said next year the number goes away?
Yep, there won't be a pension fund into the next year.
There won't be a revenue for the pension.
The revenue for it, yeah.
Yeah, so the revenue isn't called, what's it called then?
Well, it moves into the general fund.
And
Yeah,
it's,
so-
it's just part
Yeah,
of that
the-
big.
Yeah,
big number.
part of that package. And then when we look through our property tax requests, we'll see kind of the net effect of that.
We retain the local pension fund dollars up through a maximum of 5 years or until it's gone. And then at that point in time, it goes into the general fund and counts towards fund balance.
Yes.
And we'll start with this is our special education fund. The first piece here is our mild to moderate program. We'll have our staff salaries, our temporary staff salaries, our aides, kind of the social security, retirement match, the health insurance, worker comp. And then as we go through each of these categories, you'll see them in pretty much in the same order. There's some registration fees, some professional and technical, which has to do with some services, travel, postage, supplies, and then a little bit of instructional materials on there. And we do have, from each year, we do have shifts between mild to moderate to our severe that change. This is the federal payments on our mild to moderate. So the IDA is federal dollars we receive. And there's a few staff members under this federal program then that service our mild to moderate students. You can see the totals on there. And then our severe program, we have our teacher salaries, our temporary salaries, aides, the benefit pieces to it, professional, technical, in very the same format, 326,000 is the total on our severe. We don't receive any federal dollars for our severe programs, just our mild to moderate. The next one, our next few, have to do with our services when children go elsewhere. We have day programs, and that's where they'll have their educational services at another site, maybe Sioux Falls at CCHS, but then they come back here for the evenings and transport back and forth. We have more and more students doing that type program. And then the residential program is where they're placed somewhere and they stay there on a long-term basis. And these are all part of the severe program. So you notice our day services have went up, our residentials have went down. Our residential, actually, the total is these two together because the federal programs do cover portions of our residential services. So not a lot of change in that in the overall net effect, but it did shift around some. We have an early childhood program, which is 3 to 5 salaries and for the teaching positions and the aide position and different pieces to that, the early childhood. We do get a little bit of federal money for the early childhood, not much, but just a little bit on that. You can kind of see we have to account for that. With our nursing services, it's just that any nursing services, this is with our hospital contract, is needed with children with their IEP program, and they'll charge through this line item. We do have our psych services, and this is delivered to us by the Prairie Lakes Co-op. Each year they do the testing and those services on the children. And then we have our speech therapy services. We employ 2 speech therapists and wages and benefits and supplies and services for that. The physical therapy and occupational therapy, those are 2 that we get through the hospital again. And then they bill us by the 15-minute increment with the children that they work with. And it looks very similar. That will have just a tad less PT and a little more OT into the next year, which just changed things just a little bit. And again, that varies kind of as families move in the Bob district. Our administrative cost is our special ed director. the social security benefits. We do have payment, the co-op has administrative services that they provide, special education, and there are different registration fees and that. If there's anything you want to slow down or take a look at more, let me know. The next 4 or 5 have to do with our transportation. The special education bus that you see kind of traveling around town is a good portion of this. There's the driver, and we have to split up their time based on the children that are on that bus. So we have our, kind of our autism portion for that. We have our emotionally disturbed portion, our cognitive disability. These are all state determined functions. And then we have our multiple disability portion of that. And we do have some where we pay mileage to the parents if they do the transportation. And then we have our developmentally delayed portion
So
there.
those are broken down by how the state tells you to.
Yep.
Or
Yeah, by the child's code, and then we break it out by how the ridership on that bus. So our total special education change, kind of from year to year, you can see that. And then how we'll fund our special education program. Can't quite get this all in one. About almost $1 million come out of our local taxes. There's some miscellaneous taxes and some penalties prior. Medicaid, we get a little bit through Medicaid. This Medicaid's direct billing, so it's specific services to the child. This Medicaid, there's some indirect billing, which is just general services that the school provides to that. And the direct billing has kind of went down quite a bit in the last few years, so we had to make some kind of adjustments on that. But the exceptional children, that's the state portion of it, which they came through real well this year through the legislature and picked up a good portion of that. The next 3 there, actually 4, are the federal programs. They stayed very similar for what they've been contributing towards that. And then with this year, a lot of it depends on the out-of-district placements, but we're projected to use about $88,000 of our fund balance to fund this portion. And there shows the fund total for the special education. And then we'll go to our capital outlay fund. So with our capital outlay fund, with our expenditures, it's kind of broken up into these smaller categories, but we have our textbooks and instructional software programs. We're purchasing the English language arts curriculum this year, and that is one of the more expensive sets. Last year we just did our kind of replacement pieces, and the year before we did math, so you can see there was a dip down and came back. Technology equipment, this kind of goes through Rob's department. They put in the principals work with their staff and then develop requests on that to kind of see where the elementary program is at for capital outlay. Then the middle school program, kind of same format for that. See, then the high school program, those are instructional based. And then in the library, actually it shows an increase, but their general fund side, we shifted some of their databases that they purchased that students have use of over to the library media and capital outlay from the general fund side. It's more fitting and probably where it should be coded. Otherwise it ends up being the same dollar amount total to the district. Our technology, this 116, a good portion of that is our E-rate. We have a wireless system that's in our E-rate program, and if approved, I'm going to replace our existing system, which is past its end of life. We'll replace it district-wide. The E-rate will cover 84,000 of that.
About 60,000.
Or 60,000 of that, which I have on the revenue side, which we'll see that. Then we have our administrative computer software programs that are more district-wide programs. Let's see if we can do that. Scroll down here. And then here is our construction line item. This 842 was our bus garage, and then the 450 is what remained from the prior year. And so now it's 220, so it's not the bus garage, but this is that auto shop grant that's coming through the state. So that's our construction line item. So it falls in that area. In our care and upkeep of building and grounds, Um, The largest portion of this is our roof. Then there's also our parking lot pavements and all the different projects Mr. Schaefer's kind of going through. Some of those happened this year and some of them will happen in the next. The majority of them are in the next. We have some miscellaneous items. We do have some, it's not necessarily equipment, anything that's new where we asphalt the old bus garage is new to us, so that actually expands, so that would be considered capitalized. Not necessarily equipment, but capitalized for our total district. With that, and then with our transportation, some of these have to do with the small automotive lift and then bus cameras and that type of thing. This 81,000 is that school bus. That's our cost, and then on the revenue side, you'll see where the grant applies. Our copier leases, and this is actually more than our copier leases. I brought in our copier lease, printer lease, and then our postage meter lease. I put them all in one. They're all our capital leases, put them all in one area. And this is where we get into our exciting part, our debt service. Next year, we have no more of the elementary building for the 2009 issue. That's been paid off, and then we'll have no more of the 2011 issue. The payment for that was actually just in this board packet tonight. So that's been completed. We still have our certificates. This is in the prior years, we've done our interest only payments on those. This is our first year putting principal payment onto our high school renovation. That's the portion that would set for year one payment. The capital outlay elementary 4 are gone. We prepaid that one in the prior month. And then the Reed loan was for equipping in the elementary, and we paid that one off early, and we have no payments for that in the next year, which is pretty exciting. And then with our...
So then basically the elementary is free and clear.
Which is free and clear, yeah. It's pretty neat. And then the slope loan is that state loan where they give us a 0 interest loan, and we pay principal only for 10 years. This is actually payment 3. The first year happened back here, and then there was a change in the dates they want payments due, but it's supposed to be our 3rd payment on that, and that was a great benefit in order to help us get things paid off, and that's been a nice program that the state provided us. So our total debt service, you can see quite a bit of change into that. I'm on there. Hope I didn't see anything again. Sorry guys. And that shows the total. Wait, no, there's our extracurricular. Some of that's hopefully with our agreement with DSU, and then some are just miscellaneous items in the activities program. For our total, we see a little bit of a decrease in our capital outlay funding in the next year, and a lot of that has to do with debt. And how we'll fund that. We'll have 2.26 in taxes, local taxes, some miscellaneous taxes, some small amounts in there. The bus shop grant is at $220,000. Clean diesel grant is $20,600. And I was put the Prairie Village sale. I was optimistic they estimated at $5,000. But what I did with this budget, because it was number 2 on our long-term items, was to pay off the high school portions. So I set aside $400,000, which is about a 1-year payment, to call that debt early. If we can do that for a 4 or 5 year period, we'll knock out that additional tax we put onto our taxpayers. I think that'd be a really nice thing that we'd be able to. We're decreasing our total spend in the capital outlay, and we're able to set some aside with that.
So that would actually be the bonds rather than the capital certificate?
Or we could do either.
Okay.
It could be done either or.
Okay.
It could be done either or.
Because you have 2 pieces there that
Two
were...
pieces, and they're set very similar, yeah.
Okay.
With that. And then we're to the general fund, which is our largest portion. And sad to say, this takes longer than all the rest. Sorry, guys. With the general fund, now go through. It's very similar to special education fund. Your salaries, your temporary salaries, your benefits, your professional services, and your supplies. And you can see this is the elementary building, their general education side, general fund education side, where that entails. The next, the Title II is federal dollars. We used to fund 2 positions through it. Now we can just only do 1. It's kind of decreased over the last little bit. So our total Elementary, our general fund school, is at 1.6. Over to the middle school. So the middle school, you can see the salary pieces, all benefits. You know, and it is interesting to think with our 270 some kids in our middle school, that school's bigger than probably 2/3 of the districts in the state. Just having that count there, just kind of as a comparative. Our high school program, you see the salary pieces, and the large changes in them was because of the new formula and the intent of where that formula goes to our staff, our teaching staff dollars, and you can see just the different shifts. You know, our health insurance changes, each one we contribute that extra $75 per month. You can see some of the changes to them.
Temporary salaries would be like subs or?
And that's both, yep, subs and then long-term subs.
Okay.
Long-term subs are probably the larger driving factor to that amount. With the CTE grant, that we don't have into the next year, it all changed over into that building project. So then that portion goes away. We've been very beneficial, that's been very good for us in the last couple of years. And then this next portion is our Perkins. Dollar amount's very similar from year to year, and we use it pretty similar each year. Title I is kind of for reading and math in the elementary, and smaller student breakdowns. You can see where this shifts around. Sometimes we need teaching aids, but it's the Title I. The law enforcement, that's our SRO that we share with the city and county. It's been a great program for us. On there, our guidance department, wages, benefits, services and supplies. And then there's been some grants in the past. We didn't receive one this year, and I don't really project we'll probably get one in the next year, but our health services, this is our contract with the hospital on the general fund side. Our improvement on instruction, this is our curriculum director, and she also does our staff training schedules. That's what that contract is. And we have our library. The 2,000 counts are our support staff, our support services, which the last ones have been. This is our account for our library service for our 2 libraries within the district. And we have our technology. We did increase one of our tech people to full-time, so I have 2 full-time through the school year. And then their services, the fresh technical is our director contract. Here's the Board of Education. Just some changes in there, being the professional and technical, otherwise everything's left pretty much similar there, and that was just because we're no longer doing superintendent search. Our election services, kind of carries forward each year in case we have an election, which we did this last year. Our legal services, we just kind of use a moderate amount in there. Our audit services, commencements, our graduation, we don't necessarily purchase it every year, we try to buy in a good block, and then some years it's higher, some years it's lower. We have the superintendent office, salary, assistant, professional, technical, dues, fees, all the different things that go with that. And we have our principal offices. This combines all the building principals, same 2410 for all of them. You see all the pieces to that. And then this is our payments to a cooperative to Prairie Lakes. Just a small portion of that is general fund expense, most of the rest of it's special education. And then we have the Medicaid. There's an admin fee. There's a state group that's been hired by the state to facilitate that, and they'll charge services on some of their quarters, and that's to cover that fee. Get that. Here's the fiscal services, the business office. This is my area. Losing my pointer. You can see the different changes and pieces on there. And then I always feel this is a pretty interesting one. I think people realize what it entails to keep our facilities up, but this is our building and grounds, our custodial salaries, our electricity. You know, it's kind of leveled off a little bit, which has been nice. We've kind of been moving that quite a bit. What we pay, sewer, water, natural gas, garbage, repairs and maintenance of all the different operation systems. supplies, insurance pieces on the property side. And we spend about $970,000 just each year maintaining our facilities. Quite an expense. And to keep these up in good fashion. Here's our pupil transportation. Our bus drivers, our director, the different benefit pieces, what we spend in just the gas, diesel, lubricants, supplies, repairs and maintenance pieces that we have to take out for service, and then insurance for the vehicle fleet there.
That doesn't include any extracurricular, that's just.
No, the extracurricular will be coming.
Okay,
yeah.
that's
So
just
this
the,
is just routes and
okay.
direct transportation.
And in town now.
Yeah. And then our printing costs, if there's one thing schools do, it's we print and we print well. We have software in order to kind of keep that reduced, but still, it's a needed thing. We do a newsletter at the beginning of each year that kind of sends out for everybody in the community with registration. This is at ASBSD where we place, or we put our positions are posted, where certified staff look for positions. This next portion is our non-public school. Whenever we buy a curriculum, if the private schools would like that curriculum, we're required to purchase that for them. And then they do a Title II sharing, which is some training services. And then with our Title I, if there's students in the private schools that qualify for Title I services, our staff will go over there and provide services for that.
And that's increased, Mitch, significantly because of language arts, excellent.
Yeah, for this year,
7,200 from
because of the language
25.
arts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Then we have the foundation piece, we're just a facilitator for them. We do cover a portion of the salary that steps down each year, but we facilitate out their payroll for them. Unemployment claims, we haven't had many the last few years, we just kind of keep a $1,000 plug number in there. Now we'll go into the co-curricular. The 61s are boys sports. You can see what a football program costs for a year, a middle school football program, high school basketball program. Probably slow down anything, let me know, but the professional technical are typically entry fees and referees and bookkeepers and stuff, or the official books and that for the sports. Middle school basketball, and then the wrestling, and the middle school wrestling, and then the 6200s are the girls sports. So there's the girls basketball program. But I always think it's important to see what programs do cost districts. There's the middle school girls program. There's the gymnastics program. And the middle school gymnastics program. And the high school volleyball. And middle school volleyball. And cheerleaders. Then here's the transportation for all the co-curriculars, all the activities, salaries for the drivers. This also has the travel expense if there's a state event and they spend the night, like tennis went out to Rapid City, that motel and meals and stuff charged to this line item. So this will have all the co-curricular travel and add to it. And then we have the 6-9s are the combined, where it's boys and girls sports. We have our activities director position that splits between high school principal and activities director. Kind of see the salaries, and then medical supplies that we purchase are common amongst all sports. We have our track and field for high school, and our track and field for middle school, and then our golf, tennis. We're getting to the end. Cross country, the debate, whoever decal and our quiz bowl, and they added. And we have our dramatics, which is the play the play and one act. Our FBLA, our elementary musical, or elementary instrumental music for the 5th grade program. Our high school, middle school instrumental. And our vocal, high school, middle school vocal. And our student publications. And the FFA, and the FCCLA, and ProStart homecoming. That's for advisors, still council for the advisors, National Honor Society, and prom. I did put the total there so you can see where our co-curricular expenditures is $445,000 for this next year on that. And then the last piece is the contingency. I did seek to move that up a bit. Our budget kind of stepped up by $500,000 in contingency transfers are nice because we can keep a tighter budget on our line items. And then if we have to have error, we do like we did earlier and have that contingency transfer portion to kind of move that around. And then we'll go to our revenues on how we'll fund all the expenditures. With this, you can see, so this kind of shows that tax piece. This is the bold, and there's another bold one a little bit later on fit in the screen, but this is part of the state formula, the new formula. You can see that there is a reduction in the local property taxes. That's part of the formula. The other piece is our opt-out. With the change in the formula, we won't need our full opt-out, so we've been stepping it down. We were able to continue to step it down, which is kind of nice. We'll ask $100,000. We have a little bit of miscellaneous taxes that will come in. The utility tax is kind of a hard one because we haven't even gotten this number yet for this year. And we're supposed to budget next year, but there's a change last year on when we receive all of these revenues. We don't receive those till August, September, but so I'm kind of left it the same based on what was done the year before. So hopefully that doesn't change too much. You can see interest we earn. Admissions has been very strong for all of our activities. Activity ticket sales have been very consistent. A little bit of rentals on some of our musical instruments. Different tournament income that we host. And we'll kind of come down here. A little bit of donations that we get and some small grants. The Prairie Lakes Co-ops, we were their fiscal agent. They pay us for that service. That's what they pay us for this next year. The Medicaid admin, we get some general fund Medicaid. It's decreased like the special ed over the last few years, but we still get a good sized portion in there. A little bit of other revenues from local effort, but the foundation pays us for their services. We have 18 budgeted, they'll pay us 10. The county apportionment, these have to do with fines that the county assesses. That's actually went up pretty well recently. Revenue in lieu of taxes, there's a few properties that pay revenue in lieu of taxes to us. Then here's kind of the state formula. You can see the state portion has increased, but their portion of the formula has been. So that was a nice.
And that's due to the change in the projection from going from per student to the per teacher.
With the new formula. Yeah. And then we have, this is the English language learner. We just have a small portion in there, but state apportionment is kind of what the state gets off their public lands that divides out amongst the students. The bank franchise, it had a dip earlier, it's been hanging on. So I'm asking it'll come in just slightly less than the year before, but it's still very close. Other state revenue, there's some small different programs that they'll provide through the teaching staff that they fund through the school. We'll go down to the CTE. We won't receive the CTE in the general fund anymore. That's now in the capital outlay for the program. The next three are our federal programs, and those just offset the dollar amount on the expenditure side. And then this last portion, that's our fund balance usage. We do have projected spend down of our fund balance over the last couple of years and into this next year. This one's a little bit larger, but with all the changes in the formulas, there's a new requirement on what we have our cash balance to be, so this will help us get closer to where it's probably ideal on that. So,
Can you go back up to the taxes for just a second?
Yeah.
So then that's based on that reduction of the percentages and things from the legislative package that was passed.
yeah, and
Okay.
I'll kind of show on this is kind of our levy request. But if you'll see, we request, this top portion lists our budget amounts in there, and then this portion is our levy request, and the general fund ag levy, the state have kept the same, but they reduced the owner occupied,
Okay.
and they reduced the commercial property. But the pension fund used to be a .3, now it's 0, so there's automatically like a .3, so even though it's like, maybe that one stayed the same, there's still .3 less that's gonna be levied on that, and that helps that sales tax on there, and then we kinda have our, and those are state set, and then special education fund, we can set 1.505, since we're using a amount of reserve, we went to our maximum on that, pension levy again 0. And then now we have to request some dollars on capital outlay amount. That's the dollar amount needed to bring in taxes. And our bond redemption fund, 405, and then our opt-out, 100,000. On that. Very interesting year for budget and budget changes on there. Hopefully we can stay the same for a while. And then that's all I have.
Can we go
So much here.
Can we go through that all one more time?
But I do think it's important we kind of see each line and what programs do process.
Questions? I think, as Mitch said, this is probably the largest change in the way we do business, and but yet it also has provided us with the largest infusion of dollars to be able to use towards salaries and things. And Mr. Parsley, we thank you for your support to allow that to happen, Senator.
One vote.
In many cases, that's all we needed. Just in the wrong chamber, though, the one vote. But I think, again, very, very, interesting to see. And Mitch, thank you for your hard work on the budget and things as we go forward. So we have those two items relative to the budget, and then also to our appropriations, or the tax request, and then we'll revisit your request. So we have conduct the hearing and consider the proposed budget. Help me out, Mitch, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a motion to have this passed as our proposed budget for the 2015-2016,
So
or 2016-2017 school
the
year.
first one is just a motion. It's acknowledging that we held the budget hearing.
Okay,
And the
okay.
second one then is the budget and the property tax request.
Okay, so we need a motion first to acknowledge the fact that we had our budget hearing.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Moore has that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sims. Further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion of acknowledging the budget hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Declared as passed. Then the next item is the approval of the budget and then the property tax request. And the property tax request was actually that document that Mitch showed us there, indicating where we're going to get our funds. And again, part of that change in the legislation, we used to do all that based on mills. And now, according to the latest legislative package, that has to be done in dollars instead of mills. So that's why that's different than what we might have seen in the years past. So with that, I would consider a motion for the budget and property tax request. Okay, Mr. Hague has the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moore. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the budget and the property tax request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Okay, then we're back to a request to revisit an item on the agenda, which was the involving of the gymnastics. We really appreciate your coming and things. We're sorry we did an early start. We normally do start at 5:30, but we have our new superintendent with us, and we wanted to be sure he had the opportunity to hear some of our budget things. So we did start our meeting a half hour early. We've already taken action, and our action was on the recommendation of our administration to dissolve the co-op. I guess unless the board feels differently, I think that's where we sit with it.
Could we just speak though anyway, just to,
You certainly could speak.
I do everything on my phone. So.
That's fine.
I guess I would like to just say the reason why we came here last year to you guys at this time. My daughter Jocelyn was in 8th grade, and she had competed in club gymnastics in Sioux Falls since she was in kindergarten, and 5 out of those 7 years she attained the state title. And she was very successful. There's really no reason why we should have quit gymnastics there. However, she came to me and said, "Mom, I just want a life." She was done working out for 16 hours during the school year and 21 hours during the off seasons and during the summers. And so she never was able to go to her brother's football games, wrestling matches, anything. And so we decided naturally right away to stop club, and she said, "But I don't want to quit gymnastics." And so that's why we came to you, and you provided that opportunity for us. And we actually feel that the year went wonderful. She has made lots of friends. She did very well. She got second in state, and she helped push other girls helped push her. We were actually blindsided because we didn't know what was the problem. There was no issues ever throughout the whole school year. And so, and I know that sometimes if you're new to a place, people will just say, "Oh, thanks for, yeah, it's great that she's on the team," and go on. But when a couple of families go out of their way to come up to you and say, "Hey, we're really happy that Jocelyn's on our team. She is just great with the girls." She even helped one girl make her routine, her beam routine, and they said, "Thank you for, how nice Jocelyn is to our girls." And I kind of looked and said, "Well, you don't need to thank me for her being nice or anything, but so that just tells you." And they also went up to my parents too at different times. So it's not just that they said, "Oh yeah, she's great, thank you for coming and we really enjoyed her." It's different because they did do that. The reason why I and my husband don't want her to open enroll, which we've discussed it, she said instantly she would open enroll to Madison because there are so many friends that she has here already. However, if you know the roads from Montrose to Madison, I have 2 friends that were killed driving to gymnastics. One was in high school, Sarah Nitz, I don't know if you guys remember from a long time ago, in Salem. Salem did not have a program, so she went to O'Gorman and drove herself, as a sophomore, drove herself to O'Gorman every day, ended up in the ditch, came out of the ditch up onto the road and got killed. One of her teammates actually was from DeSmit. They were driving home and her mother got killed. They were in an accident. That's what we don't want. I don't want to put a 15-year-old out on the road daily for 9 months. And that's huge. And I don't know if any of you would want your 15-year-old girl out on the road driving 35 to 45 miles a day to go to school. So that's the biggest thing. The cost, there was barely any cost to you guys. We paid for everything. We drove her here. We didn't expect anything from Madison. We did not want to change the name. We just wanted to provide a place for her to do gymnastics. Is what she wanted for her dreams for high school. I guess Jocelyn had asked, I don't know what she's going to say, but she had asked if she could talk to you also. You said you don't want to now? Or did I say anything? Well, why don't you tell them about the year and how that went? Or what your dreams have always been and why you would want to stay here.
Okay, so I've been doing gymnastics for so long and it's really just kind of grown on me. Like, it's been my life, and being in the gym 20 hours a week, it's just what I did. Like, people would say, like, do you want to go here, do you want to go there? I'd be like, no, I have to be gymnastics. That's like, it was my thing. Like, everyone knew that too. And then after I quit, it was really tough, and I still wanted to do gymnastics because I didn't want to put all of my gym work to nothing. And so we came here, and it was a really good year, and I loved all the girls, and they were so nice and welcoming and everything. And we just kind of didn't really see it coming. We didn't know what was all going on and everything. I feel like we had a great year, and I was nice to everyone, and they all accepted me. But it just don't know what happened.
Well, we thank you for your input.
Is there any comments or concerns from anyone else as to,
Because Montrose did already move to dissolve this last month, correct?
I talked to the superintendent, we had thought that you had already done it, and I talked to him before we came, and he said that would not be a problem. He said it's actually them that would have to, what are the terms? Dissolve it. And if they accept it and they don't, if they take back what they, the resolving of it, then we would automatically do it again. And that was Sam Jacobs.
That you'd still have to drive here? Like, how many days, just fewer days a
So
week?
just during the season, and then my parents said that they would do that. There's no way possible that I would be able to do that. I work over in Mitchell. And so, and then we wouldn't be having her drive. We have my parents drive. I'm just not ready for that yet. We're gonna overprotect it. Probably will be.
Is Madison the closest with the gymnastics program?
It is for us. We talked to, or I talked personally with a board member on Hartford, which would be very good for us also. However, their program was new, this was last year at the time, and they said they had a lot of younger girls, and it wouldn't be a good idea to pursue the issue, and that I should probably look into like Madison or someplace. And so that's how I actually went to Madison. From that man's recommendation.
Well, again, I think procedurally, we've taken action. We could certainly, if, it's brought back, we could have a discussion, but it's not on our agenda. We've taken action to it right now for tonight, and that's
Yes.
where we'll have to leave it for tonight.
Could I make a motion to readdress the situation? Is that?
No, that you can't, because
Okay.
it's a
I
board,
wasn't sure
yeah,
how
yeah.
it worked.
You know, You can make a formal request to the administration
Okay.
to have that be brought back, I would assume, but
Would it be recommended, or?
I don't think we're in a position right now to say, okay? All right. Then that takes us on down to another page on my agenda, which is number 22, adjournment of the regular meeting.
So,
Mr. Nelson moves, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller, hearing none. Oh, we better, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
not discussable.
And again, Mr. Schaefer, thank you much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.